What's up, amigos? Commander Jaime here today, and I'm going to do a quick promo on a Thavas Lambros deck study guide for standard or V premium. And so this is something that is high quality, just like the Night Rose standard deck study that I did months ago. And so I just wanted to take a quick promo just to show you around really the table of contents and what there's more into building a Thavas Lambros deck. And I know V premium or standard is really ending, but better late than never at this point, right? So let's get right into it. And so, as you can see, first off, shout out to Ziao from Axis Vanguard. He made a phenomenal graphic. It looks really cool, and I believe it was also Zay's idea on this. It's kind of like the character selection. Really cool artwork, and it's really perfect for this type of article actually. And so, diving right into it, some of the table of contents. What is in this article? And probably you guys have wondered. Well, wow. You guys have probably wondered when it comes to the blogs. I know a lot of people view my videos but might not be readers, right? And so I want to break down a little bit what that looks like too when you're diving into these kind of deck study articles. So that first one is really the winning image of the deck, the big picture concept, what's the play style of the deck that really sets the tone for the deck, that this is what we're trying to accomplish, and then everything after that is really going to align with that, and it makes more sense because when you know the big picture, then everything makes sense with the card choices, the deck list, the metagame, all that kind of stuff. And so that's where the second section comes into play. If I go over here, let's say section 1 for example, I talk about the key strengths, some things to keep in mind: multi-attack, advantage gaining, pressure. There's also that pseudo stride dilemma that we have. It's that Fava striding into Lambros from the main deck isn't necessarily free. You have to have the right pieces, you have to rest enough rear guards, all that kind of stuff. So I talk about that too. And then as you can see, we talk about the ratios, the grade 3s, the potential new grade 4s, other options. We have grade 2s, and then of course phenomenal units that are mandatory. I even take the time to split upon Japan builds because they have Pursuit Assault. We do not have that in the English, so I actually take some time to break that down so that way both English and Japanese players can actually get a sense of both sides of that coin and really understand like what Pursuit Assault actually brings to the table, and even consider restanders, for example, and so many other options. Highlighting Narissa's MVP for the deck, and really just going into some of the other options like Wheel Soul, for example. And so if I go back up, without diving too much into it, I also included go-to plays. And so what that means, like, what can you do on your grade 2 turn, for example? If you have Wheel Assault, you could do 4 attacks without having a restander. When you have a restander, you can have 4 attacks, and you can have cards like Coral Assault that go into Soul. But then you're left with a restander, for example, that could get attacked. And I have pictures, I have the battle sequence, the battle formations are really like shown off. I even go into the grade 3 turn, an example of a pseudo strike turn with Wheel Assault, for example. And right here you can see the end result of like swapping after a Lambros attack. So you can even use that unit that got power, such as Narissa, and she's already a plus 10k from her skill. She can be another attacker, so you can get more attacks. And I even explained that once you get further, your Excel circle starts to scale, and you can see that you end up with this kind of feel. It's really nasty, and we also would only make it. And so I think in this example I get up to 8 attacks, and this is just standard too, which is really cool. And so we have other key tips too. Cypher was a really good point of person that had mentioned to me like, hey, you should talk about some of these things too. And even Zay had mentioned too. Cypher is actually the founder of Axis Vanguard, just so a little bit about that. He talked about like playing from behind. Aqua Force doesn't have a great game when you're playing from behind, and I talk about a little bit what can help with that. What are some ideal rest targets, resources to keep in mind, the scaling Excel circles, and retiring key cards in certain matchups. So a lot of these things, what to ride with, Nikki versus Baragios. These questions are really like Aqua Force players just ask themselves, right? And they're trying to figure out what's the best sequence that they can do to get the best for their card, right? Because every card in Aqua Force just matters, and you want to make sure you benefit. And I even mentioned like, what if we get damaged tonight? So I suggest a couple things too, and also the deck list. Just like I mentioned too, Japan has Pursuit Assault, so I explicitly have deck lists that have Pursuit Assault for the Japanese build. For example, they incorporate some different with Wheel Assault, and then some other cards that they tech into as well. English, we have limitations. As you can see, this one has the 4 IES. Shout out to Kasaragi Zan. He's actually a really phenomenal player too in Aqua Force, so I actually helped him. He helped me with a metagame discussion too as well. And I just used examples too, and I even included some videos too. So if you guys like to like backtrack to a video to see more in depth of those deck profiles that are mentioned here, you can do that. We have different players that actually had restanders. We had Stand Up the Soryu, and we had Senpai, for example, give out their lists that actually played restanders. So it's a different take on that. Cardfight King, he also had one for post Gurguit, the set, and that's when they actually had Percival and Aglaville accessible. So it became more of a consistent build, more of a reserve build, because you don't want to give Counter Blast, otherwise Gurguit can really like benefit from that kind of blast. And so I even talk about that a little bit. And then finally we get into the metagame consideration and pointers. I preface that Thavas and Lambros is really a deck where you can have that, it has to do a certain thing, and it has to have a tempo and of course explode on its grade 3 turn, and I talk more about that in depth. And I also mentioned the matchups. In the matchups, thanks to again Kasari with this, he helped me really narrow down some pointers. These aren't like necessarily guarantees, but they're pointers to just have in mind when you're playing with Thavas Lambros against these matchups. So we have Gabriel, for example, we have Gold Paladin post ban, for example, we have Luard, Melody, Shirane, because Shirane can start binding copies of Lambros. That's something to worry about. The Lambros Mare, for example, too. And I even included a few, only some from clan selection, just because we're getting that soon. Like Dudley's, for example, Himiku Regalia, Chaos, for example. I know Chaos was always a topic. And really just wrapping it up with some final thoughts and credits to people that have helped with this. And so this is a joint effort. This is not just me. I just wanted to be upfront with that. This article took a while. Honestly, this was supposed to get done probably November, December time. Although we were all involved with Cardfight Con, so it took a lot longer to get out. So I do apologize, and I apologize right now. I wish it was sooner rather than later, but at this point, it's better late than never, right? And so I think this is still at a good point where people can read this and they can still play in the V Premium format, especially once we're moving forward. I also kind of wanted to wait to see if Valeos and the cards that came with it actually affected this guide, but it honestly didn't at all. And it's a good and a bad thing. Good for me because it didn't affect the work with it, but bad then because Valeos doesn't do helpful anything to Thavas Lambros or something, you know. But anyway, side changes. So I just wanted to do a quick promo just to kind of give you a whole overview of what the article entails. Obviously, just take some time, actually read it through, and I'm sure you're going to find some beneficial, whether you're a casual player or a competitive player. There's some things that you may have not seen, and this is really what this is, a compilation of people's experience, players, both competitive and casual as well, especially in real life and virtual because of the whole pandemic going on. So I hope this is helpful. Tell me what you guys think too. If you like the video, like the video. If you have some good comments, some feedback, constructive criticism with moving forward with these kind of videos, and also the promo for like blogs, for example, just let me know what you guys think. And if you guys have a good comment on the article, just let me know too. I appreciate any good feedback too. And of course, just share it with your friends too. I'm sure there's a lot of Aqua Force players, whether they're playing standard or not, they're gonna love this article because it's just a lot of good stuff, and you can just tell that a lot of the Aqua Force mindset is behind it too. So with that, and don't forget to subscribe. So see you, amigos. Bye.